Hi, widows and widowers. It's me again. Whoa! I tell you, I know I haven't really been on here since I went on a vacation for the very first time in 10 years without my spouse. Um, I actually did try to upload a video. I don't know what happened with that. So, on a separate video, I am going to address the entire trip, which was awesome. You all. I don't really know where to start and tell you how deeply spiritual and emotional it was that entire trip. So, and of course, to see Usher in concert during his opening weekend residency in Las Vegas was an absolute plus. Okay. But today, October 9th, technically October 10th, because I'm doing this at 12:11 a.m. Everybody, I just want to share with you all some of my favorite things. And the reason that I want to do this is because on October 2nd, my children and I celebrated my husband's 50th. Well, it would have been his 50th birthday. Yes, I told you. And it was amazing. I just a little history. In the past we have celebrated his birthday, and but not every year. Um, and that was basically based off of how everyone was feeling. You know, those first few years, it's like for me anyway, it was like we're gonna celebrate birthdays. We're gonna celebrate. We're gonna try to do everything as if my husband was still here, and that really don't quite work out the way it works out in your mind. It really doesn't. And I've learned that it can also cause some heartache too. Although you have the best intentions in the world, but it can also cause not necessarily yourself, but it may cause heartache on other people. And for me, it was my husband and I 4 children. So I have 4 speaking points, and each of these are points in which address an issue as the grieving process for one for each of my children. All right. And let me also say again, how did we get here? How did my family, my children and I start, or not necessarily start, get to a point where we wanted to celebrate my husband Chris' 50th birthday? Because many years ago, not many, I want to say for about 7 of the 10 years, um, my children was, especially my older two, my our 2 daughters were vehemently opposed to it. They didn't want to go to the burial site, and when they were younger, I was able to push them, and then I remember once, true story, because like I said, in my mind, I'm going to pay this tribute, and we're going to pick up, and I'm going to live my life as if my husband was still here. And that's when it, life began to tell me, like, okay, that's not how it works. Okay. Here's an example. I want to say it was year 2 that my husband passed away. Now, year 1, just to back up, came so quickly to I was totally unaware. My mother-in-law called me and she was like, um, do you want to like sync up to see exactly what time we're going to go to the grave site? And I was like, go to the grave site for what? And she was like, it has been a year. And I was like, really? And I was so confused. I was like, it has not been a year. It's only been a couple of months, a few months. I mean, at best, a few months. That's where I was. 365 days after my husband transitioning. So I wasn't even there yet. You get what I'm saying? So once I did, I was like, okay, it wasn't so bad that first year. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna pick up the baton and we're gonna come here every year, every event. We're gonna involve our my husband, your father, and everything. Right? So it may have been year two, probably year three, more so year three. We get to the burial site. So my younger sons, my at the time my baby would have been 3, and so the boys get out, and my oldest daughter, um, I think she was like probably a senior in high school at the time, so she gets out. My youngest daughter, however, I was like, where? And I'm looking around because I'm ahead of them. Everybody's still dragging, except for the boys. They don't take off running toward. And I look around, I didn't see my youngest daughter. And then I looked to my oldest daughter and I said, like, where's your sister? And she pointed to the car. And I looked, she was still in the car. And I was like, no, you can't stay in the car. And when I say, she just broke down. When I say broke down, she was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go over there. And I'm tired of you making me. I mean, I was like, okay, this is serious. And I'm not prepared for this. And I'm crying. I'm like, you're not being fair. I want to do this thing and I really think you're right, and I want to respect you, but I really want to go over here and do this thing and I want you to come with me. It was really bad. I'm smiling now, but at that time I was heartbroken. I was torn because in my heart and in my mind, I wanted to do this thing at the grave. I had, flowers and balloons. But yet my baby girl was like, Mommy, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go over there. And I was like, okay, if you don't want to go, that's okay. But I really want to go over here and do this thing. And I want you to go with me. So I was torn. Okay. And I remember I said, okay, you sit here. Oh, let me inject also. Now, my daughter had these emotions, although she was in counseling for grief support. Love to go there, right? So wanted to make sure I put this in there that although that you're providing, those supplemental support groups for your children in this grieving process, there's still going to be those moments where there's going to be a breakdown in their emotions, and they just have to express how they're feeling, and you have to allow them that space and that respect to do so in a very healthy way. And for her, she just did not want to go over to the actual grave site. And so we met in the middle. I said, well, she was still at, in eyesight. And I said, you just stay in the car. And she was okay with that. The rest of us went out to the grave site and everything. So that brings me to my first point. And that is that everyone's pace is different in this healing process. Okay. And we should respect that. And as parents of children who has lost their father, I mean, when I say, I mean, honestly, I was about to lead into like your father active in a child's life. That's irrelevant. If a child knew of someone in that role as their father, then that counts. That matters. Okay. Um, and my daughter, like I said, they have been in grief support here locally and gone to camp, for children, youth bereavement groups and things that very active, and they enjoy going. So much so, this same child, my youngest daughter, that did not want to go to the grave site, is now prepared, who is in her second year of college, is now preparing herself to train to be what they call a buddy. Yes, to the same bereavement group for children. I think that's wonderful. But we have to respect the fact that the healing process is different. And it's the pace is different. And for my daughter, that in that moment, in the second or third year of my husband transition, I wanted my way, and she felt a whole nother way. So it's like, do I force her? Like this tug of war. And I thank God, the universe, or whatever intervened. And more so than anything, the compassion in my heart, because I love my child. I felt her pain. And I respected it and I honored it. And I said, okay, I understand. When we I think a couple of days after that, and I prayed about it and I was just meditating, I was thinking about it, and it came to me, you guys, I'm telling you, prayer meditation is, I can't tell you how real and how good it is. I really can't. Just be still and be quiet and listen, just tell your heart. But anyway, back to the subject at hand. I, excuse me, it come to me that, look, you can get this done between the two of you. All right. And I was like, well, how do I do that? Now, grant you, in year 2 and 3, I had not embarked on getting any type of, support for myself. So I'm getting this information strictly from spirit. I'm telling you. And it had come to me that take in consideration your daughter's heart, her heart space. Give her her space, you know. Talk to her, you know. And for those things that you want for yourself, then hey, while they're in school or when they're in their youth support group, you go and have these moments with your husband at the grave site. Because it wasn't so much, after talking to her, it wasn't so much she did not want to celebrate or recognize or talk about or conversate about her dad, and that wasn't it. She was just like, I just don't like the grave site. And I had to get that piece of information from talking to her and listening to her. I mean, not just hearing the words that come out of her mouth, but actually listening and channeling her words and her emotions. You get what I'm saying? Into my heart, and just translating them into ways of bringing healing to her. So I took her words into my heart, well, into my ears, to my heart, and I was like, they were food for thought. Do you get what I'm saying? So I was able to, I guess, put a plan together that benefited her and myself. And when that happens, that benefits everybody in the household. Okay. So I always remember that it's imperative that you everyone's pace in this grieving process is going to be different, and that's okay. So grant them the respect and your compassion and listen to them, and then at that point devise a plan, that lovingly represent both of you or all of you, because I had 4 children. Yeah. Whew. I tell you guys, I'm gonna have to do another video on just me, just with 4 children. Now, the second reason for this video, like I said, I address one issue to each child. So the addressing the healing process and the pace was based off my incident that happened with my youngest child. So moving on to my youngest son. Now, I was pregnant. I was anywhere from, I think I was 30. I want to say 32 weeks. I don't think I was even 32 weeks pregnant when my husband when my husband transitioned. But anyway, I was pregnant when my husband suddenly passed away. My husband had been at every um excuse me, y'all, I'm sorry, delivery except for the one with our youngest son. Before my husband passed away, we had already named our son. You know, that's how far along I had gotten. And I find myself um, a lot of times kind of directing my youngest son in he's very or he can be very uh how should I say vocal. I mean, he's 10 and he just I'm just gonna say it. Okay. I bel- he is trying to find his place in the conversations that we have about his father. He really is. For instance, on my husband's, which was October 2nd, his 50th birthday, I purchased a carrot cake because my husband would always make this ginger. I mean, my husband like loved to bake. I said that in another video. Carrot cake, which was delicious every year. And so I purchased a carrot cake, and we all took time and we kind of wrote a message on the cake and icing. And we sat around and we were having conversations about, everybody wanted to talk. You get what I'm saying? And I was like, wow. It was really nice to see. And my youngest son, he was like, well, I'm sure that I have dad's eyes. I look just like him. Mama, I'm your chocolate baby anyway. Something like that. Or he would say, well, mom, when did I get my first haircut? And I was like, okay, okay. And I would entertain. I was like, well, you got your haircut here, and or I named the location and things like that. And I reached in, well, before we even started, I went through my box. I have this box of my favorite things. They're not so much um some of the greatest, fondest memories, but however, they're memories that were life changing. You get what I'm saying? And so I'm just going to show you some of those items. And I'm going to lead into why I feel that my youngest son is trying to find his place in the conversations that we have with my husband. Okay, so real quick, I'm gonna show you our wedding photo. All right, I had pulled this out, pulled out my whole. I don't know if you can see it. This is us. Yeah, that's us. We were married. That's the garden wedding, and then we went on the inside. I have to find a photo of us on the inside, and it was really nice in Atlanta. Oh my God, y'all! I never would have thought I would have a beautiful wedding in the way I did, but anyway, that's the wedding picture. All right. So in there, I also have my son, my oldest son, hair. You can't really see it. It says dad and my son's name, first haircut, because my husband cut our son's hair, right? And then, of course, I have all my children. Yes, I'm that parent, so I don't care. All of my children's, yes, ultrasound photos. All of them. Hold on, I'm not finished. Let's see, who child is this? Okay, that's the baby. And then let's see. Yeah, so that's dang Gabriel. Okay, so what year is this? Oh, this is Caitlin. the baby girl. So, yes. So I pull all these out, just a couple of things, just to kind of establish the mood for the birthday, right? So after we were talking, and so Daniel got in his emotions about, yes, haircut. It was like, well, Mom, where's my hair? Right? I was like, I couldn't remember. Now, grant you, like I said, those first 2 years, I myself just wasn't there. I wasn't present. I was really going through the motions. I was on subconscious driven mode. I was on autopilot. Really, I was, you know? So I had to say, well, guess what? You did get a haircut. Um, I didn't keep the hair, but you did get one. I said, this is just something that I kept because your dad cut his hair. And you can just see the look on his face. Like, he was, I guess, he wished he would have been a part of something that relates to his dad. And all I had to give him was the fact that, guess what? You look just like him, you know? And then he pecked it. Oh, I do? I said, yeah, look at it. I was like, I pulled some more figures. I was like, look at that. Eyes and, the beautiful chocolate skin and everything. And I was like, he got excited again. And then his sisters and brothers rallied behind him. Oh, yeah, you act just like him. And you can draw just like him. You all, I'm so grateful for the children I have. I really am. Their love and support and how interdependent they are of each other. I am truly grateful. And I'm so glad that they chose me, and that they love me unconditionally and they respect me, because I don't always get it right. I mean, look like on these videos, but I don't be messing up. I'm too left brain for that. But, there are sometimes I feel like, oh, I could have did a little bit more, you know, and they don't judge me for it. Um, so after everyone kind of rallied behind him and some say, hey, you draw just like her, because my husband was a fantastic artist. I think I've shown you guys some of my daughter's artwork. Actually, all of them do. My oldest daughter, I mean, with music, phenomenal, right? So I was in my emotions because I felt like I wasn't able to really connect my youngest son to his dad, right? Because the first 3 years I just did a lot of crying, um pulling myself together just to function and be there for my children. So he didn't have this, you know. My son didn't have he doesn't have any photos with his father holding him, you know. And I just felt really, really bad about that, right? So I want to say, when did I find this? It had to have been a couple of days after my husband. So let's say about the 6th. Let's say the 6th, October 6th of this year. So I'm actually headed back to place these items back in my box. Then I see this big, hold on, I was like, what is this? All right. And it was a stack of cards and the homegoing booklets from my husband's funeral. So I was like kind of sifting through them. And then right behind them, I was like, oh, there was a lot. Because I'm not showing you the envelopes, but it was some more envelopes. So I sift through them. I was like, oh, that was so cute. You know, you look through it. And then I started to see these. And it says, heard about your little star, little Daniel from, I'm not going to say who it's from. And these were letters from my coworkers. Yes. And I remember I was looking at, I was like, thank you. Because this is exactly what I think he would need to see. You get what I'm saying? That although, because I buried my husband on February 1st, they couldn't keep my blood pressure down. So within a week, my labor was induced to give birth to my youngest son. He was in a NICU for about a month. And during that time, my coworkers called me in to come by. They said, "Oh, we just have a couple of items for you," and it was an all-out baby shower. It was. I mean, literally, I didn't have to buy anything for my son Daniel, and I couldn't. I was like, I can't believe I forgot about this. But do you see how all of this was in the same envelope? My husband transitioning, the celebration of his life, and the celebrating of my son's life, his interest into this beautiful world. An end, not necessarily an end, but a beginning. All in one envelope. Where's the envelope? Oh, in here. Who knew? But God knew. And God knew that I was going to need these, right? But God knew that I needed to see the problem. Not so much a problem, but see the situation. And that is that my son is seeking his place. You hear what I'm saying? Within the conversation of his father that he did not get to meet in this physical world. All right. So when I found these, I was all teary eyed, just like I am here. And I was like, he got out of school. I was like, Daniel, I have something for you. He was all excited. He was like, what? I said, guess what these are? He was like, okay, what are these? I said, whose name is on here? And because I had already named him, and he was in NICU, he was like, that's my name. I was like, yes. Look at, I can't, the little cow used to come up. I don't know what happened to it. Oh, okay. And he read through all of these. We read through them together. Here's one. Oh my goodness. It was so many. Like, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. I'm just going on and on and on. And I have so many. So many. I mean, he was going through them so much because my son is very meticulous. This 10-year-old, he was like, Mom, a couple of these are the same. And the reason I said it because he put them together. I said, well, guess what? Two great minds think alike. How about that? You get what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. And so I can go on and on and on. And you should have seen the smile on his face. You get what I'm saying? And then he said, oh, so are these it too? And I was like, well, no, these are cards from people from my job, his job, and family and friends offering their condolences, And then I opened up the book and I was like, look at all these people who signed, that big book that I give everybody. And everybody from his elementary school teacher to, family and friends, neighbors, classmates, and things like that. And so he even wanted to see these. So we went through some together. And I thank God for the moment for us to do this together. And we did. We went through a few. He didn't want to go through too many. He was like, it was all about him. He just wanted to do these. So we went through a few. And The look he had on his face was like, my dad must have been really, really important. And guess what? I'm really, really important too because all these people thought about me. You know? Yeah. They cared enough to not just gifts, they put his name on them, you know? So, if you're in a situation where your child, um, is too young to remember their relationship with their parent that has transitioned, or the parent transitioned before the child is born, understand that in their grieving journey, you don't dismiss their grieving journey because there was no physical contact with that parent that transition, because it's just as strong as a child that had physically touched their parent that has transitioned. Okay, it is. So I've heard in bereavement groups where parents have stated, well, I'm not understanding because she never met him or he never met their mom or their dad. So why are they acting out? I think they're using this as an opportunity. That's what I think the lady said. Opportunity to just act out. No. Although, especially, even if you remarry, I've seen, and you let me know. Like I said, I don't know anybody personally who has remarried, but there has been a couple of people who've come in and out of our widow group that have, and then they just stopped coming. So and I haven't done any follow up or anything like that. I probably should, but I guess my goal with bringing up my youngest son and the fact that he never actually physically experienced his dad is not just cause to just write off their emotions or their feelings. Even if you do remarry, they're going to want to know, like, why do I do some of the things that I do? You know? So never dismiss what they're feeling because they did not have a physical connection. And if there wasn't a physical connection, make an effort to find something that connects them to their this transition or deceased parent. Okay. All right. So that's two. My third reason was my oldest daughter. At the time my husband passed away, I mean transitioned. She was in the ninth grade. Yes. And she it was at a point where she was trying everything, you know. And she never really tried us because I mean, my daughter, she's a very um studious and mild mannered young lady. Uh However, she wasn't, you know, the child where she just did not, she avoided, teenage issues altogether. No. For instance, I remember getting off of work. I was pregnant and I had just got off work, picked up my oldest son from daycare, headed to I think she was at a friend's house when she gets out of school some days. And my husband, I went to pick her up, and my oldest daughter comes out to the car, and I was like, "Oh, okay." She was like, "Oh, hey, mom, I didn't know you was out here. I'm gonna go on the inside and go get my book bag and things." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I'm looking at her. She forgot to take off her makeup. Yeah. hmm Now, my husband and I had already had conversations with her because, makeup and, boys dating and things like that before she even started high school. So, of course, she was aware of the rules, and makeup was off limits for her. And so while she's in there, I'm smiling because those emotions are coming back. So I pick up my cell phone. I call my husband and I tell him what happened. And he was like, "What did it look like?" I was like, "I don't know where she got this makeup from." And this is the truth, y'all. It was like blue and turquoise. I don't know what it looked a mess. I remember what's that comedian? I can't remember the older comedians. They looked like a gallbladder had busted. It was a hot mess. So, I didn't say anything. So my husband was already en route to, for home. And he was like, "Don't say anything. I want to take pictures." And I was like, "I haven't said anything. I was just looking." And so I was like, "Okay, what is taking her so long to come out?" So I blow the horn so she comes on out. That's because at some point when she was in there picking up her things, she forgot that she took her makeup off. So she was dragging her feet to get back in that car. So she gets back in and she had this strange look on her face like, maybe they won't say nothing. Maybe. It's just see them. And my youngest son is just looking at her like, "What's that?" And she was like, "Be quiet." And I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. So I, calmly drive on home. Well, no, I had to pick up my youngest daughter from the after school program. So we get home. My husband's already there. So I pull up into the driveway. And so he comes outside. And he has his camera phone. And he's taking picture of Faith, and our daughter. And she's just taking pictures. She's just like this. And he was just really laughing, just really just like, "Oh my goodness, what color is that?" Oh, so everybody's laughing, right? Like, "Oh my god, that is the worst." Like, you should not. Whoever did that to your face, you need to go beat them up. Just any old type of thing. We don't encourage them to fight, but it was like, "Girl, they just messed you up." That type of thing, right? I'm not saying that. That's my husband jugging at her, right? Her and the rest, and Kate, the baby girl, and so. I go prepare myself to do what I normally do, get dinner ready, go with my homework. So I go change my clothes and come in, to prepare dinner. And so we're sitting at the table. Of course, she goes and wash her face. And we sit at the table and we're like, "Now, you know what the rules were, right?" And we had this conversation. So it's funny because the reason I tell this story to tie it all together when it pertains to my oldest daughter is because when my husband was living, she knew what she wanted to do. The two of them had already discussed two options. She wanted to do music. And I was like, "Okay, so how are you going to do music and make some money?" And I don't, it's all good with me. Just tell me how you're going to make some, sustain yourself. And, her dad was like, like, "Hey, you should go in the military and get into the military band." I mean, he had it all mapped out for her, right? And this, opportunity to travel because she was like, "Oh, I don't want to do college. I don't want to do that." I'm like, "Why not?" But I was like, "Okay, your dad, you guys had a plan. I get it. And I trust it because you sat down with your dad. And if he's with it, I'm with it. You know, uh, after Chris transitioning, it changed. We all did. And for this particular one with my oldest daughter, my third talking point is using grief to catapult you into another career. Because that's what happened with my daughter, Faith. She went ahead and she went on to college. Um, and when it was time for her to declare a major, it was psychology. And I was like, "Oh." Music to psych. First of all, you're here in college. You know what I'm saying? After going through the whole ROTC thing, the ball, and all this, stuff in high school. You know, I was like, psychology. This girl make beats, and music and all this other stuff. I was like, psychology, really? I was like, okay, you know. The next thing you know, she's doing. She had now. She was about a little bit over an hour away, living on campus, and now she's volunteering for after school students who needed bereavement. I was like, okay, all right, okay. And she comes to me, she was like, well, Mom, I'm gonna get a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. I said, oh, okay. She was doing the work to match what she was saying. So I was just like, okay, I see you. And so I was like, okay, I can trust this. And I remember, like I told you guys, the reason I'm on YouTube is because, yes, my psychology major's daughter. And through her grieving process and through, you know, the youth grief support group that she had been involved with, and she was able to tie it into music. Let me tell you what she said. She was like, Mom, I know how to tie music into psychology. And I was like, oh, okay. How are you going to do that? She said, music therapy. And I was like, music therapy? Of course, I'm not into music and I'm not into psychology. And so I looked it up and I was like, wow, okay. And this young lady, I mean, she was so serious about psychology. She made I think it was a C in a class. And she called, she said, well, Mom, I need to take another class. So I said, what did you fail? She was like, no, I made a C. I was like, okay, you know. And she was like, well, can you pay for it? I was like, I got to pay for another class that you made a C in. What? Why you didn't get everything you needed the first time? You know, I'm a hoop. Blah, 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 blah. And she was like, I just think I would be better if I do it over. I mean, that's all right. Cool. So she did a summer class and she passed with flying colors, right? So I was like, all right, cool. So my daughter was able to use, and she's using it to this day. She's working with youth to this day. For the city, and she graduated. What is it? Cum laude from college. Um, so it's just how grieving, if you will do it in a healthy way, when it's loving, compassionate, kind, and respectful and healthy, can lead you into a whole nother career. So that's what it was for my oldest daughter. Now, my fourth talking point concerns my oldest son. Um, Gabriel was 3 when Chris transitioned. So this is his hair because his dad cut his hair. That was my husband thing. I cut my son's hair. I was like, okay. And I put on here is that don't stop talking. You know, when I say don't stop talking, like I said with my youngest son, even if you remarry, do not, I guess, totally stop talking about the deceased spouse. Or you get what I'm saying? And I'm not saying you have to bring it up in every conversation or have pictures all over the house of the person. But you can if it works. You get what I'm saying? Because my oldest son, who is now 14, um, is starting to ask me questions like, like I tend to like such and such and things like that, or he gravitates to certain, behaviors. And I was like, oh, your dad used to do that, you know? And one day he got out the shower and he had this, robe on. I was like, oh my goodness, you have hairy legs just like your dad. And he was like, Mom, I really want to shave. But anyway, that's just an example. But I say don't stop talking about them because it helps um, the children to kind of build and solidify um, some of the things that they're feeling, some of their mannerisms and some of their behaviors and things like that. Like I said, my husband was an artist. My oldest son, he can draw. I mean, he can just zoop, 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 zoop. He has actually already coined and trademarked his own business. Yes, GT, I think graphics. Yes, I already did it. Actually, he did that when he was in elementary school. That's how serious. And he's in a freshman in high school now. So you know, I've seen. I don't know of anything personally, but I've seen like on certain shows and things like that where a deceased spouse, and they just kind of watch the whole house of that person. Um, is that therapeutic? Like I said, I'm not a psychologist. I would have to get my daughter on here. But just from my heart space, I don't think that's healthy. I'm not saying you have to have the whole house draped, have their marriage photos or anything like that out. But that's why it's so important that, you get into a relationship that leads to a healthy marriage where your spouse, is very not just understanding, but is compassionate to your issue of having children of someone that is deceased, and that they are self-confident enough to where when we were having a conversation about your deceased spouse, um, with your children, that there was like, wow, that they too can positively add to the conversation in ways, for instance, maybe, if we're talking about, like, for instance, my son's hairy legs, and, you know, may add to like, hey, maybe the male will say something like, the ladies kind of like hairy legs, I don't know if you want to cut it off so soon, or what have you, or, it might want to kick it back. So, hey, so how did his dad do? Did he shave his legs, or, that type of thing? So, you know, I definitely, like I said, from my heart space and from my experiences up to this point, I wouldn't just completely wash the whole house of the presence of your deceased or transition loved one, spouse. And make sure that you're in relationships where their self confidence is there, and the respect and the compassion. I'm trying to lean not too much on understanding, because I can care less if you understand it, but I need you to have that compassion, for my situation. You get what I'm saying? That my children are going to need to hear, like, hey, you look just like your dad. You look handsome. And somebody that is self-confident and compassionate enough, they're like, man, you look just like your dad on that photo. And be okay with it while helping him, um, learn how to tie his tie, teaching him to do that, and have great respect for a man. I'm using a man in my situation who has transitioned and has blessed them with the opportunity to pick up where they left off as a father. It's a good father, supporting one. So that was it. Oh, wow. I did not know I was going to speak that long, but I just wanted to let you all know I went through my bag of goodies, and that it gets better. I'm going to hit these 4 points again. And that is, one, it gets better. You know, 10 years, although it sounds like a long time, but in my mind and my heart, it doesn't feel that way. Stay present in the moment. And those of you with children, listen, listen. Hold them accountable though, okay? But listen to them and get them and yourself the any type of support that you need to get through this, because this was not meant to bring us the heartache that it does. I don't want to drift off into anything else, but I tell you this, I always say to myself that it gotta be something that I can do to take the sting out of death for other people, because it hurt me. Those first few years, you guys, the sting was so powerful and so painful. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. However, it's a given. It's one of those things that it's gonna happen. And my goal is, if I can just take the sting out of it, you know, then I will feel good. All right. So 4 points, right? There are different paces of healing, and sometimes you're going to have a child who did not get to physically meet their parent. Don't dismiss their grieving process, because it leaves them in a space where they feel like they have to find their place in that story, you know. Thirdly, grief can catapult you into a whole new career, like it did my oldest daughter. And then fourth, don't stop conversating about your deceased loved one. Don't talk about them, but at the same time, don't erase them. Talk about them, conversate about them, celebrate them when if need be. Okay, just like my oldest daughter, she was like, nope, can't do it. And this beautiful part about it, you know why we celebrate his 50th birthday? My 4 children came to me. And I even said, okay, well, what are we doing? I'm letting them kind of like, control how this going to go, unfold. I'm just going to provide the funding, the money. And they was just like, no, we just get a cake. And then I was like, oh, I'll get some balloons. Let's get some balloons. And then we'll go to the gravesite. And I was like, what? This girl want to go to the gravesite? So it's been 10 years, though. It's been 10 years for her to get there. 10 years for all of us to get to where we are. And there's going to be many more 10 years, okay? I love you. And I always know that pressure busts a pipe. So always seek out any help that you need. All right? 911, a family member, a friend, any loving, healthy way, because you deserve it. All right? Love you all. Bye.